Have you guys seen the Netflix documentary American Murder, Laci Peterson? This is the documentary that talks about the Laci Peterson case. Some of you guys may not remember. Some of you may be too young or you don't remember. I was pretty young at the time, so I wasn't like hooked into it. I just remember it in the periphery, seeing it on the news. So I kind of have like a vague awareness of like what happened. So it was really nice to watch this documentary and get the details, be reminded of things, but also like learn things that I didn't know before. So basically this documentary opens up by giving us Scott Peterson's version of what happened, of what he says happened on the day that Laci disappeared. So just as a quick reminder, for those who don't remember, Scott Peterson and Laci Peterson were a married couple. Laci Peterson was 8 months pregnant when she disappeared on Christmas Eve, 2002. And it set off a nationwide, hunt for, or at least a citywide hunt for her, and a nationwide outpouring of support for her family and for her husband, Scott Peterson, who, had told us that she was missing. And so the documentary starts off with Scott's version of events, the version of events that he gave the day that he told her family and the police that she went missing. So according to Scott, on Christmas Eve, he decided that he was going to go fishing 90 miles away in Berkeley Marina. Okay? Off rip, my spidey senses are tingling. The red flags are going off. Christmas Eve, you're going to drive 90 miles away to go fishing by yourself and leave your heavily pregnant wife at home? According to Scott, he left her at home and she took their dog on a walk in a local park near them, okay? He goes fishing. He has the parking pass to prove that he was at the marina at this particular time. And he comes home. And mind you, he goes fishing in a secret boat that nobody knows exists. Red flag number 2, okay? He has this secret boat that nobody knows exists. He comes back, puts it away at his storage unit, and then drives back to the house. According to him, he gets home around 4:15 p.m. and he notices 2 strange things when he arrives. First, his dog is in the backyard by himself with the leash dragging around its neck. No supervision. First, this is weird. And second, the door is open. When he arrives, the door is open. All right. So he walks in, he notes these 2 weird things, collects the dog, goes inside. And the first thing he does is he takes off his clothes, he puts them into the washing machine, and he does a load of laundry with only the clothes that he was wearing that day. Okay. He doesn't add his clothes to laundry that's already there. He doesn't add more clothes to his clothes that he was wearing. He just washes his one outfit that he was wearing that day. Red flag. What are we on? Number 3? Number 4? Okay. Then and before he does the washing, I should say, when he gets home, he calls out for Laci. This is a story he tells. He calls out for Laci. She doesn't respond. She's not home. And he just takes that to mean that she's probably at her mom's house because, again, it's Christmas freaking Eve, right? Motherfuckers got plans. So he does his laundry, and while he does the laundry, then he goes upstairs, he takes a shower. Now, on a normal day, coming home from fishing, throwing your clothes into the laundry and taking a shower, no big deal. Okay? But remember what's, the bigger picture here. So he goes to take his shower, comes downstairs, has a glass of milk, eats a slice of pizza, and then calls his mother-in-law and asks if Laci is over at the mother's house. And she, of course, goes, no, she's not here. And that's when he says, well, she's missing. And that is at 5:17 p.m. So he gets home at 4:45, and roughly 30 minutes later, he goes from assuming that the wife is at the mother's house to now deciding that, well, she is missing. after having washed his clothes, after having taken a shower and sat down and having something to eat. Okay? So then he calls the mom. The mom calls friends. He calls friends. They ask around. And the story as we know it begins. Now begins the search for Laci Peterson. Okay? So this is the story that he tells us. And the documentary follows the investigation. But one of the things that I liked about how they kind of like formatted this documentary is that they would go back and forth between like telling you how the investigation was proceeding, but also to modern times, current times, and doing interviews with people currently. And one of the things that we learn in some of these current interviews is the red flags that Laci experienced in her relationship with Scott Peterson. The first red flag that they talked about was love bombing. Laci's mom, Laci's friends talked about how when they first started dating, Scott Peterson love bombed the hell out of Laci. He bought her expensive gifts. He took her on trips, took her to fancy dinners, treated her friends as well. And they talked about, one of the friends was like, at the time, this is back in the early 2000s. At the time, there was no term love bombing, but if we were to call it anything, it would definitely fall under love bombing today. Those behaviors. And we know love bombing it's a problem, right? Because basically they're trying to get you hooked. That's what love bombing is. They try to get you hooked so that every single time in the future when they start acting up and they start showing their true colors and you're ready to run, they can remind you, and you will be reminded yourself of the good old days, the good times. And in your mind, you're thinking, well, if he has the capacity to do this, then he can do it again. I know he can, but you don't realize that that was all just a hustle. It was manipulation. That was never who he really was. Okay? And so they talk about the love bombing. And I love, how she talks about how there was no word for it, because sometimes creating a word for something can make all the difference. There's so much stuff that has gone on and so much fuck shit that has gone on that has gone unsaid. Like people just kind of had to accept it because there were no words to describe it. I love that we're creating these words, things like love bombing, microaggressions, all the other great terms that we've come up with, all the woke terms. Because sometimes labeling something allows you to call it the freak out. Gaslighting is another one. Before you would just get gaslit and you'd be like, well, it's because you're talking, but you're not. No, now I can just tell you gaslighting. You gaslighting me, ho. I can just say that this is love bombing rather than being like, I just feel like you're doing a lot right now with all this da 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 da, right? So I really appreciate the importance of creating words to describe certain phenomenon and pulling that phenomenon out of like murky waters so that we can call it for what the hell it is. Okay. Another red flag that the mom talked about was the fact that Scott didn't want a baby. Remember, she was 8 months pregnant. Scott didn't want a baby, y'all. The mother talks about how Laci called the mom crying one day